The appearance of duality changes. No, the world still appears as 10,000 things, but it has lost its veiling power. It shines with its reality. It doesn't veil or conceal its reality. And we begin to feel this literally when we're walking down the street, doing the dishes, having a meal, or whatever. We feel that the world and everyone or people or animals and all things are literally the very same infinite being that we are. And of course, in relation to people and animals, we conceptualize this as love. And in relation to things, we conceptualize the same experience as beauty.
Yes.
Love and beauty are literally revelations of reality, interventions of reality into our normally dualistic way of feeling and perceiving.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today I'll be joined by Rupert Spira, who is a featured teacher along with me in Rhonda Byrne's The Greatest Secret. Rupert Spira is a teacher of Advaita Vedanta, a direct path to the recognition of the one truth that all is. He helps people explore the perennial non-dual understanding that lies at the heart of all great religious and spiritual traditions. So, for those of us who are starting to, or deeply into recognizing that we're not the body, mind, or the world, or we're not just that, but we are that which is aware, how would you describe what happens from that recognition or that discovery?
The recognition, I am awareness, or I am that which is aware of my experience. I am not essentially that which I am aware of. That is my thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, and so on. This recognition is, we could say it is the first recognition. Most people believe and feel that they are this cluster of thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, and so on. In other words, the body-mind. So the first recognition, in the first recognition, we, so to speak, we take a step back. I am not that which I am aware of. I am that which is aware. So this is the first step. I am awareness. It's not yet the recognition that is traditionally referred to in the spiritual literature as enlightenment or awakening or liberation. But it is a valuable, and in almost all cases, a necessary step on the way to that so-called awakening or recognition. Yeah. What is the second step? It is the recognition of the nature of awareness. So the first step, I am awareness, this recognition that what I essentially am is awareness. That the next step is the recognition of the nature of awareness, because the recognition I am awareness itself doesn't liberate. It's a partial liberation from the tyranny of our thoughts and feelings, but it's not yet the full recognition of ourself, and therefore doesn't completely liberate us from the belief and feeling of separation and the suffering that attends it.
So let's dive into what comes next and how to explore that.
I'm going to answer your questions the other way around. How to explore that, and then what comes next.
Oh, no, of course. That's how I do it too. I never taught. It's always about the exploration, and then people. Yes.
So how do we explore the nature of awareness? Very simply, in the same way that we explore anything. We give our attention to it. If
Yes.
you want to explore music, what do? You give your attention
Yeah,
to
you
music.
listen to music. Yes.
If you want to explore mathematics, you study mathematics. If we want to know the nature of awareness, we give our attention to awareness. Now, when I say we give our attention to awareness, I don't mean to imply that we are one thing or one mind, and that awareness is something else that we can give our attention to, like music or mathematics. This attending to awareness is unique. It is an utterly unique experience, in that it is the only experience in which that which attends and that which is attended to are the same. So when I say we give our attention to awareness, what I really mean is we, awareness, cease giving our attention to thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, perceptions, and so on. And we allow our attention to come back to ourself. And this return of the attention to its source is the essence of meditation or prayer.
Yes. Yes, and
it is, so sorry to interrupt you. I'll just say one other thing. It is in a way the culmination, the pinnacle of all spiritual and religious practice. There are many, as you well know, there are many preparatory practices in the religious and spiritual traditions which involve the giving of our attention to something other than itself, not to music and mathematics, but to a mantra, a flame, an image, the breath, the pause between breaths, an image of God, the teacher, and so on.
Yes.
These are still objects of attention, but they are stepping stones, halfway houses, where attention is no longer giving itself, where awareness is no longer giving its attention to 10,000 things, but its attention has not yet subsided in itself. So it is giving its attention to an intermediary object, a sacred object, a mantra, a flame, the breath, by way of preparation for the final subsidence of attention into the heart of awareness.
Yes, and as you do that, there's the quality of that is exquisite. There's it's hard to put into words, but
yes.
Go ahead.
You're absolutely right. It is exquisite. Sometimes I refer to it as a kind of undressing. It is a shedding of the layers of experience, usually progressively, occasionally suddenly, in which we, awareness, are divested of all the layers of experience in which we have become entangled, and as a result, the subsequent revealing of our naked being. So that is this self-recognition, is this the self-revelation of our naked being, the naked being of awareness, the pure awareness of being. And it is that recognition that if we awareness recognize our being as it is, divested of all the qualities of experience with which it is usually mixed or colored, that recognition is the experience of happiness itself. And that is the great equation, the great statement, which is really the essence of the Vedantic tradition, Sat, Chit, Ananda. So Sat meaning being, Chit meaning awareness, and Ananda meaning happiness. What it means is the awareness of being is happiness itself.
Yes.
But in order to recognize that the nature of our being, or rather the nature of being, because being doesn't belong to anything other than itself, In order to recognize that the nature of being is happiness, being must be experienced, or rather, it must know itself. It must experience itself as it essentially is, before it is mixed with or qualified by the content of experience. So this divesting of ourself, of all the qualities of experience, is the essence of prayer or meditation.
Yes. Oh, beautifully put. Isn't it also this spontaneous, sometimes we try to assist it, but this spontaneous recognition of more subtle forms of identification. In other words, you as you recognize your pure awareness and as you explore it, there are these moments where you realize there are still places where you're identified with something that isn't awareness. And just in seeing that, it tends to just simply dissolve, revealing more of itself. Would you agree with that?
Yes. As we take this inward-facing journey, as we awareness return from the adventure of experience to ourself, we discard, to begin with, as you imply, the outer layers of experience, the everyday thoughts, the sensations of the body, the perceptions of the world. But just as when we come in from on a cold winter's day, we take off our overcoat, and that reveals the sweater that we were wearing underneath. We then take off our sweater, which reveals the shirt, and the shirt is a lot finer than the overcoat. The overcoat was made out of thick wool. The shirt is made out of fine cotton. You take off the shirt and that reveals your silk underwear, which is very, very fine and very thin and almost indistinguishable from your skin. And so, yes, every layer that you take off reveals a finer layer of experience underneath, which you were perhaps not aware of when you were wearing the outer layer. So yes, there is this sort of undressing, this unveiling, and each layer that we come to, as you rightly say, is a slightly subtler level of experience with which we normally identify ourselves. Yes.
Yes. And just this, it's hard to put into words, but there's also well, you talked about the inward facing path, but there's also a natural unfolding that goes beyond that, isn't there? I believe you call that the outward facing path.
Yes, the inward facing path is the path. I refer to it as the inward facing path, the path in which we initially turn our attention away from the content of experience. And by content of experience, I don't just mean our objective experience of the world. I mean our internal content of experience, thoughts, yes, images, feelings, and so on. So it's the via negativa. It's the turning away, the neti-neti, yes, process, where we turn away from the content of experience for the purpose of recognizing, first of all, I am awareness. And second, recognizing the nature of awareness as peace and happiness itself. And having accomplished this, if we can refer to it as an accomplishment,
it's not really
having recognized this, yes, it is then necessary to turn around again, so to speak, and turn towards the content of experience from which we previously turned away on the inward facing path. And this turning towards experience is what I refer to as the outward facing path. And it's not just turning towards the world, it's turning towards our experience of thoughts, feelings, and so on, in order to realign our objective experience, the content of experience, with our newfound understanding. And this outward facing path, I would suggest, is really the hallmark of it's the great contribution of the tantric traditions. If the inward facing path is the great contribution of the Vedantic tradition, then we could say that the outward facing path is made more explicit and is explored more fully in the tantric traditions.
Yes, very much so. So how do we How do we explore that?
Well, starting with the experience of the body, because our identification with the body is much more than just a belief. It is a feeling. So if we want to colonize the way we feel the body, if we want to realign the way we feel the body with this new understanding that what I essentially am is unlimited awareness, we turn towards the body, and we do so not as a distant, aloof, witnessing presence of awareness. We take our stand more as the space of awareness, and recognize that not only do our thoughts and feelings arise in the space of awareness, but actually our experience of the body, which we know from the inside as a flow of sensations, also appears in the space of awareness. So this is where I usually begin, recognizing that the body, which we know from the inside as a network or flow of sensations, appears in the space of awareness. Now, this is, of course, a complete reversal at an experiential level of the normal perspective, namely that awareness appears in the body.
Yes.
If we can do this now with your listeners as we all listen, if we were to close our eyes now and allow the experience of the body to come to our attention, and immediately drop the label body and just refer to the raw experience itself. So sometimes I suggest evoking the quality of a newborn infant who has no conceptual knowledge or no past or memory to refer to. So a newborn infant experiences the body, but they have no idea that what they are experiencing is a body. They experience just raw sensations, not even sensations of the body. As far as they're concerned, it's just raw experience. And if we experience the body in this way, we find that this network or flow of sensations appears in the same field as do our thoughts and feelings, as does the sound of my voice or whatever other sounds may be present in our environment. So this is the first step, to try to experience the body divested of the concepts that thought superimposes onto it. Just experience the raw sensation. So let's, I don't want to describe this. Let's do the experiment.
Yes,
if I were to ask you now, keep your eyes closed for the time being. If I were to ask you now, what size is the current sensation? What would you say?
It has none.
It has no size. And what shape is the current sensation? In order to find the shape of something, we need to go to the edge or the border of the sensation. Can you find a clearly defined edge or border?
No, it's boundless.
It's boundless. What age is the current sensation? Referring only to your current direct experience. Remember, you have no memory. You can't refer to a past. You're a newborn infant. What age is the current sensation?
It doesn't have an age. It's timeless.
What gender is the current sensation?
That too is not present.
It's interesting to just in this simple experiment, we realize that if we only refer to our experience now, without reference to a past, we have no knowledge, no actual knowledge or experience of being a man or a woman. We have the experience of being. We, awareness, have the experience of being, and in the middle of this presence of awareness, there is this tingling vibration or sensation, but the sensation itself, which is filling the field of experience, the field of awareness, the sensation has no shape, no size, no border, no age, no gender, no nationality. Is there anything about your current experience that tells you you are a human being? Would you know that you were a human being now if you did not refer to your past?
You wouldn't know anything.
Well, you know that you are.
Yes.
If I were to ask you the question, do you have the experience now of simply being? Or is there the experience of simply being?
Yes.
What would you say? That there is. And if we acknowledge that there is the experience of being, that there must be something that is knowing that experience. In other words, there is the experience not only of being, but of being aware. It is because we are aware that we are aware of being. So there is awareness, and there is the awareness. Awareness is awareness of simply being. What can we qualify that being? Awareness is knowledge of itself in any way, based only on our current direct experience. When I say our current direct experience, I'm talking to us, awareness. If awareness could speak, what else would awareness say about itself now, apart from that I am, and I know that I am?
Just this.
Yeah. Is there any suffering present?
No.
Could there be any? By suffering, I don't mean physical pain. I'm talking about emotional, psychological suffering without reference to thought or memory. Could suffering exist?
No.
No. That right there is the discovery that the awareness of being is happiness itself. Its nature is happiness, or as the Buddhists don't like to conceptualize happiness, so they just say freedom from suffering. It's the same thing. The absence of suffering, the absence of agitation, which is commonly known as peace. So in this way, we perhaps won't go further, but in this way we explore the body. We bring the body into the investigation. Let's carry on. If I were to ask you, referring only to your current experience, remember you're a newborn infant, you have no past. If I were to ask you, what is the stuff the experience of your body is made of, that this tingling, amorphous, ageless, genderless vibration, what is it? What is it made of in your experience?
It's made of that which the same that's aware. Same
Exactly.
Stuff.
All there is the awareness of it, not even the awareness of it. It's not awareness, the subject, and it, the object. We cannot separate the sensation from the openness, the emptiness, the aware presence within which it arises. It's not, although it's valid in the early stages of our investigation to conceptualize objects appearing in awareness, like fishes appearing in the ocean or clouds appearing in the sky. This is just an initial stage of our investigation. The body is not really an object appearing in awareness like a fish in an ocean. It's more like a current in the ocean, made of the ocean itself. In other words, there's no, just as there is no such thing as a current, as distinct from the ocean, but rather the current is a movement of the ocean, or could be said to be the activity of the ocean. Likewise, if we stay close to the evidence of experience, the body is not a separate, independently existing, discrete object. It is more like a flow of sensing appearing in the ocean of awareness, made of that very ocean as a modulation of it. So we're now beginning to feel the body in a way that is consistent with our understanding that awareness is the ultimate reality, the ultimate nature of everything. It's one thing to understand this. It's quite another thing to feel the body in a way that is consistent with this understanding, to feel that the body is not something solid, dense, inert, made out of dead stuff called matter, but is made out of this luminous, empty, transparent, loving stuff called awareness. So that's just a little taste of what I sometimes call the outward facing path, the path in which we could be called a path of surrender. We surrender everything to the presence of awareness. Everything is subsumed in awareness. Everything is not just understood as awareness, but felt as awareness. And then there's a corresponding exploration we can do with the world, where the world it loses its veiling power.
Yes.
And becomes a revealing power. It ceases to veil its reality, but shines with and as its reality. Just like the image in a movie, which once seemed to veil the screen, is later seen to shine as the very screen itself. And it's not actually the image, just as it is not the screen, just as it is not the image itself that either veils or reveals the screen, but it is rather our belief that confers upon the image the ability or not to veil its reality, relatively speaking, the screen. So likewise, it is not really the world that has this veiling power. It is our belief that the world is something other than infinite consciousness, something other than God's being, that seems to make it something solid, dense, inert. So it's not Maya or the illusion of the world that is problematic. It is beliefs or ignorance that is problematic.
Yeah, there's a confusion there. Sometimes people expect Maya to disappear.
Yes, no, Maya is upgraded in this understanding. Instead of being dismissed as some evil force or some negative force, which is responsible for all our suffering and for all the evil.
Right. No. And something you have to go to war with, which just keeps you going.
Yeah. It's upgraded from an illusion to the creativity of consciousness, through which consciousness manifests its formless potential as the universe. Maya is the consciousness's tool of creativity and manifestation.
Yes.
It is only a negative force. It is only considered to be an illusion from the perspective of a separate self or a separate subject of experience, for whom the world seems to be very real as a physical world.
Yeah, and outside of yourself.
And outside of yourself, yes. Yes.
Beautifully put. And thank you for doing that experientially. I always prefer the experiential.
Why not just do a little?
Right, exactly.
Rather than describe it.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, that was beautifully done. Thank you.
And of course, as you well know, the purpose of my questions, does the sensation have an age or a shape or a gender, is not to receive a yes or no answer. It is to take us as the listener deeply into the actual experience itself through the concept of the body, but to the raw experience itself. So the questions are just facilitating that, really.
Yeah, all the questions we use are designed. They're not really supposed to be answered necessarily.
Exactly.
They're just pointing at something.
Exactly. Yeah, they're taking us more deeply into our experience. Yes. Yes.
So, what else can we explore that helps? I mean, what we just did is probably enough. But what else can we? I mean, we have a little more time, and I'd really like to give everyone listening to this or watching this a deep enough taste of this exploration so that they can be engaged in continuing it on their own, however they choose to, whether it be listening to you or me or any non-dual teacher, or just more importantly, their own living experience moment to moment. So what is some other invitation that you can share?
Well, let's extend this experiment. We won't actually do the experiment, but let's extend what we've just, the little experiment we've done in relation to our own body, to the world itself. Whatever we are as people, as individuals, we obviously arise from or emanate from the world. It is the world that produces us, gives birth to us, so to speak. And therefore, in the same way that a wave is an emanation of the ocean. So just as the essential nature of a wave is the same as the essential nature of the ocean, so the essential nature of us as apparent individuals or people or bodies is the same as the essential nature of the world from which we emanate. Well, we have just done this experiment going into the experience of the body and divesting, no, not intellectually, but experientially, divesting the body of all the concepts that we superimpose on it, and realizing that the body is not an object appearing in awareness, but is itself a movement of awareness, a vibration of awareness in awareness. Well, if that is so of us, then it must be so of that which gives birth to us. It's not necessary to explore every square inch of the world, let alone the universe. All that is necessary is to explore our experience of ourself, because our experience of ourself is, the nature of ourself is the same as the nature of that from which we emanate. So if we have recognized that the nature of my body is the very awareness within which it appears, then that must be true of the world. It means that the world is the activity of the same awareness. The essential nature of the world must be the essential nature of ourself. And of course, this is the great equation of all the great religious and spiritual traditions. Nirvana and samsara are one. The essence of my mind and the essence of appearances are the same. I and my Father are one. What I essentially am and what the universe essentially is the same in Christianity. All traditions express this in one way or another. So if we understand this, it means we relate to the world in the same way that, of course, the world appears to us as 10,000 things, because we view it from the localized perspective of each of our minds. And from the localized perspective of each of our minds, the world seems to consist of 10,000 things made out of something other than ourselves, separate from ourselves, at a distance from ourselves. But in reality, the nature of the world is identical to the nature of ourselves. It is infinite awareness. The world is literally, not metaphorically, literally the activity of infinite awareness. And we, as apparently separate people, are simply a localization of that awareness, through which, or through whose agency, or from whose perspective, awareness perceives itself as the universe. So we are literally, when we look at the world, we are literally looking into God's mind. These are God's thoughts, if we can anthropomorphize God.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting God literally has thoughts like human thought, but it is the activity of infinite consciousness. The world is simply how the activity of infinite consciousness appears from the localized perspective of each of our minds. It means that when we look at the world, we are literally, as the Sufis say, seeing only God's face.
Yes, that's a beautiful expression.
We having understood this, we begin to take this understanding into our feelings, into the way we actually feel the body and perceive the world. It doesn't mean, as we said earlier, it doesn't mean to say that the appearance of duality changes. No, the world still appears as 10,000 things, but it has lost its veiling power. It shines with its reality. It doesn't veil or conceal its reality. And we begin to feel this literally when we're walking down the street, doing the dishes, having a meal, or whatever. We feel that the world and everyone, and all people, all animals, and all things are literally the very same infinite being that we are. And of course, in relation to people and animals, we conceptualize this as love, and in relation to things, we conceptualize the same experience as beauty.
Yes.
Love and beauty are literally revelations of reality, interventions of reality into our normally dualistic way of feeling and perceiving.
Yes. Yes, and the experience of love and beauty just becomes more and more natural and not so special.
Yes.
It's just natural.
Yes, and love. Normally, we think that love is an experience that we, as an individual, has in relation to another individual.
Right.
It's quite the opposite. Love is the collapse of the sense of being an individual distinct from another individual. In other words, love is not itself a relationship. It is the collapse of relationship. It is the revelation of our shared being, or rather the revelation of shared being.
Yes.
There is no person left for being to belong to. There is simply being, God's infinite being that shines in each of us as the knowledge I am on the inside, and is felt between so-called people as love on the outside.
Yes.
And the same as we call it beauty when we sense this in nature or in an object.
Yeah, it makes our experience of life, turns it into just a continuous celebration.
Yes.
Even the challenges, that's the fun part too, is even when life doesn't stop just because you've recognized that which you truly are and you see it in everything, there are still things that the body mind needs to take care of or deal with.
Yes, but the challenges that we face, we have fewer and fewer challenges that are based on the belief of separation.
Yes.
Those challenges diminish because
Totally.
the belief that generates them and supports them, perpetuates them, it diminishes, and therefore the problems that arise on behalf of the felt sense of separation also diminishes. However, not all challenges arise on behalf of the felt sense of separation. If you trip over in the pavement and you break your arm, the pain you feel, is not as a result of feeling yourself to be a separate self. It's
and
a
you still
sense
may
that
get the bone set.
you still need to get so there remain challenges that need to be faced in life, but the fewer and fewer of those challenges are based on the felt sense of separation. But
Yes.
they can still be very very demanding challenges in life. But the way we respond to them is increasingly informed by this understanding.
Yeah, totally. I a few decades ago had a very profound experience of that. This body was diagnosed with extreme encephalitis uh, um, and several other conditions, and it was dying in a hospital, and yet there was just this incredible peace. And Lester, my original teacher, said that this is the experience. You should be able, he actually said it in a very extreme way. You should be able to watch the body being slowly crushed and not have any reaction to it. And I always thought, sure, I believe that. But here I was there was tremendous pain. And the doctors weren't sure I was going to live. But at the same time, there was just this tremendous peace. And that really solidified a certain recognition that I didn't even realize I had. So it was.
Yes. An experience like this or any other challenge, but let's take the experience like this. It can either solidify our sense of a separate self, in which case it intensifies our fear and our suffering, or it can magnify our being. Our being becomes clear as the body,
Yes,
mind is challenged, or we begin to lose our faculties or our health, or in some cases, and we all know people where this is very evident. In many cases, our being actually becomes magnified. That which is free of disease, free of lack, free of illness, free of limitation, becomes magnified as everything else begins to fall away. And this is why some people, as they get older and approach death, become more and more radiant, because their being is beginning to shine through all the other layers of experience. Whereas for another person, such an experience would be a source of suffering and fear. It would intensify their feeling of separation.
That's true. I've been present with people dying, and I've noticed that even when their inner experience is of some degree of suffering, even then there's this light that shines through more and more, and it's hard for them to hold on to it.
Yes. My father, he died actually 2 years ago tomorrow, and he was never overtly interested in any of these matters, but in the last 3 or 4 days before he died, he just kept saying, all of us 6 children, we were all around him, and he just kept saying, I don't know what I've done to deserve this. All I feel is love. All I feel is love. What have I done to deserve this? And as I say, this was not someone who had studied these ideas or practiced in any way, but the death process, which was quite a long, lengthy process in his case, had just kind of gradually washed him clean of all the conflict and the fight. And just in his last few days, he was just at peace and he just felt love.
Yes.
It was a beautiful death.
Yes. Yeah, it's so contrary to what most of us believe, is that death is a terrible end, whereas it's actually can become a non-event.
Yes. Yes, for the awareness that we essentially are.
Yes.
Yes.
It's at least for me. It's sometimes I go through these periods where it's really hard to talk. When whenever that self-recognition really comes to the foreground, it's really hard to express it in words.
Absolutely, and the words have done their job.
Yes,
The
yes,
words
yes.
were only supposed to take us there, and sometimes through force of habit, we think that we need to go on talking. No, it's like arriving. When you arrive on the Caribbean beach, you don't call a taxi. You're where you want to be. You don't
You
go on
just sit
travel.
back in your lounge and
Yes, and sometimes it's not necessary to go on talking and exploring and analyzing, because all of that has accomplished what it was supposed to accomplish. It doesn't mean that we sit in silence for
no,
the rest
no,
of our life.
right.
Conversation can still be used in friendship and celebration, and of course to explore these ideas. But yes, it doesn't need to carry on indefinitely.
No. Can you? I know you just got a copy of your new book. Can you hold
Yes.
it up and tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your new book?
Yes, indeed. So this new book, can you see it? Okay, it's called
Yes.
Being Myself, and it's the second in a series called the Essence of Meditation series. The first one was called Being Aware of Being Aware.
Yes.
This one is called Being Myself, and say something about the title, Being Myself. Although actually we've been
have been discussing it. Yes.
But just more specifically, the reason it's called Being Myself is that everybody, and by everybody I mean literally everybody, not just those of us interested in spiritual matters, but everyone has the sense of being myself. The sense of being myself accompanies all experience. So the sense of being myself is not foreign to people. It's very intimate, very familiar. In fact, it's the most familiar experience. But whilst everybody has the sense of being myself, not everybody knows their sense that their self clearly.
Yes.
So this book, Being Myself, is really about the essence of self-knowledge, knowing ourselves, being ourselves as we essentially are, rather than as we have come to believe and feel ourselves to be. But the reason I start with being myself is because everybody has that experience. If we were to stop anyone on the street and say to them, do you now have the feeling of being myself? They would pause, and without any hesitation, they would say, yes, I am myself, of course.
Yes, yes.
We then ask them, what is yourself? Who are you? Then they might say, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm such and such an age, mother, or if I, but all of those ideas are ideas that they've added on to their essential sense of their self. So the book is really a series of, the book is taken from meditations, live meditations that I've given during my meetings and retreats. And then, of course, they've been edited into a small collection. But the book is really, it starts with everybody's ordinary, intimate, familiar sense of being myself. And then it goes into that very deeply until the raw, until our naked being is revealed.
Yes.
And of course, the most, in some ways, one of the most important things, this revelation of our essential being, it is not, which is sometimes called enlightenment or awakening, it is not an extraordinary experience.
Yes, that's so important.
It's not an experience at all. It's not something that might happen to a few special people if they practice long enough or hard enough. It is the revelation. It's not something we become. It's not something special. It doesn't make us a special person. It is the revelation, the laying bare of the being that everyone, without exception, essentially is. It is just that self-recognition. And there's nothing exotic about it at all. It occasionally it is accompanied by dramatic relaxation at the level of the body and the mind, which may, for a short period of time, express itself in some unusual ways. But in almost all cases, it's not dramatic or extraordinary. It's just a simple recognition. Oh, yes, of course, that's what I am.
Yes.
How did I fail to miss it before? I failed to miss it simply because I was so exclusively involved in the drama of my experience that I forgot myself. I overlooked myself. I ignored myself.
Yes.
So the book is really gives several pathways back to this, to our essential being.
Yes. And I love that you say it's natural, because
yes,
that people often confuse the side effects of which are beautiful in the body-mind experience, to the actual just pure being of that which you are.
Yes, and the familiar, the most familiar, the most ordinary, the most common expression of this recognition of our true nature, it is not some extraordinary side effect or kriya, or it's peace.
Yes,
it's peace and joy. That is the evidence. And what would one want more than that? Is there anything one would want more than peace or joy?
Not for me. And not for most people listening to this. If they're really honest with themselves, they'd recognize that's what they're looking for in every activity, everything. Yeah.
Yes, those relatively few of us that are interested in spiritual matters, they call that interest, that search, the search for enlightenment. But that's just a rebranding
Yes.
of the common search for happiness. It's the
Yes.
same. Everybody wants happiness. Whether we call it enlightenment or awakening is that's just a refinement of the common search for happiness. But it's basically the same search, just the search for well-being, for peace.
Yes. Sometimes it's just a distraction too, to give it these labels.
It can be a distraction because as you say, as you imply, these labels confer a sense of the exotic onto what is in fact something that is just natural, innate, ordinary, simple.
Yes. And beautiful. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Rupert Spira. You can learn more about Rupert at rupertspira.com. That's RUPERTSPIRA.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you can have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona Method, please visit www.sedona.com. As you explore our site, you'll learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's SEDONA.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.